Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Tom Tobin, president of the club, and we're thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30. Come out and join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we're having on our local community and the world, visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary connects the world.
It's good to see everyone again. Welcome to any guests that are joining us online for this presentation. And our invocation this morning is by Rich Warfield. Rich, if you would unmute.
Can you hear me?
Rick?
Rich?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Rich, please unmute yourself.
I just did again.
There we go.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris Foster for joining us. I see Gil's name on there. Welcome from sunny Florida. I'm sure it's nice and cool down there. And I'd like to thank Pat for a wonderful Boy Scouts golf outing on Monday. Did a great job. Weather held out until the very last minute, and I hope it was very good for your organization from a fundraising side of things. So let us bow our heads and Lord God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for these precious moments. If this is the new norm, then we understand it, but we'd like to get back to seeing smiley faces and hugs like Catherine gives us. And Lord God, we pray for those Rotarians that are not online with us now. We pray for their families. And we have a special prayer for Ed Sogan and his wife, Mary, and his daughter-in-law and grandchildren. What a tragic loss. We don't know why these things happen, Lord, but Ed, we're all praying for you, and whatever we can do to help you, Lord God, please help out that family. In your great and powerful name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rich. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Andy Morse.
Good morning, Rotarians. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? So, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. And now, let us please talk about the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill
and better friendship?
And fourth, will it be beneficial
to all concerned? Thank you, Andy. And now to lead our meeting, our president, Marilyn Orr.
Good morning. Good morning. Isn't it a beautiful day outside? This morning, we are welcoming for our business spotlight, Paul D'Angelo from D'Angelo's Italian Restaurant on North 91. Paul, the floor is yours. Tell us what's going on up there.
Okay, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me today. Marilyn, I greatly appreciate it. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the restaurant. I actually see some familiar faces in the audience. I'll just give you a little history. We are family owned and operated. We've been in business since 1989. We started, so a little over 31 years. My brothers and my wife and myself opened in North Royalton. We've had 4 locations. We have 2 now. We have a sister restaurant in Macedonia, Casa D'Angelo. I'll just kind of update you on our location in Twinsburg, what we're doing. Obviously, this has been a big challenge for a lot of restaurants. The National Restaurant Association has stated that over 16,000 restaurants across the United States have gone out of business, have shut their doors and won't reopen. And I think that toll is going to continue to go up as this goes on. We've been really fortunate. One of the things that happened is our to-go business and our delivery business has really taken off in light of this pandemic. We are open now. Our dining room is open, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of people that are hesitant to come in to sit down because of this virus. Some of the things we've done with fall coming up, people will still want to go out and want to eat. And some of the things we've done at the restaurant, I wanted to let people know. We've actually installed, they're called air scrubbers in our ductwork. They use state-of-the-art technology, ultraviolet light. There's some articles online that you can read about how they have started using ultraviolet light to kill bacteria and viruses. We've put them in the ductwork. We spent about $2,000 to upgrade our ventilation system. We've also put a product called Micro Shield on all of our surfaces. It's a state-of-the-art coating that goes on all of our surfaces. It lasts for up to a year. It repels viruses and bacteria. We wipe it down at the end of the night. As long as we use a cleanser that's under a pH level of 13, it stays on the surfaces for up to a year. We welcome people to come in. We're working on doing a little bit of outdoor dining. We're hoping to have that ready in a week. We're putting some shades up to keep people shaded from the sun. We appreciate all the business we've gotten from Hudson residents in the past. We enjoy being part of the community. We've been there going on 17 years now. I'll be honest with you, I hate doing business this way. About 70% of our business now is to go and delivery as opposed to about 30%. And I really miss seeing my customers. I got to talk to Marilyn the other day doing the drive-through. That's kind of how we ended up doing this today. But you know, we do what we have to do, and we'll get through it. And again, if you do DoorDash or you do online ordering, if you go to our website, you can access either one from there. We actually have Chow Now, which you can go right to the Chow Now button and order online and come and pick your food up. Or you can actually go and click on the DoorDash button right on our website, and you can actually do DoorDash delivery. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can just give us a call. We'll make your food and have it ready for you. We can do curbside pickup, or you can pay COD, or you can prepay. So that's pretty much what's going on with us. Just doing what everybody else is doing and waiting for this thing to be to burn out and be over. But I got a feeling it's going to be a little bit longer until that happens. So that's like I said, that's about what's happening with us.
Well, thank you, Paul. That was really wonderful. It's nice to hear that things are still in operation and that you're so optimistic about looking forward to the future.
Oh yeah, things are well. Could be a lot worse. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Well, it was really nice to hear from you. Next week, we're going to be having Peter, the general manager from the Lexus dealership at Metro Lexus and Akron Canton Lexus. He'll be telling us what's new and happening at their facility. So we're trying to mix this up just a little bit, perhaps a food service or restaurant related, and then the next week, something that isn't. So we'll be hearing from a lot of different things around the greater Northeast Ohio area, including a lot of things right here in Hudson. We know that the pandemic is not going to end soon, and so it's important that we let people know that we're interested in what's happening with their businesses.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Last Sunday, I made the announcement in my weekly bulletin. I made note of the fact that Ed and Mary Sogan lost their son Steve last Saturday, July 25th. And I received the following message from Ed yesterday. He began by apologizing for not being able to attend today's meeting. Of course he did. But this is what he said. Please let everyone know how much their thoughts and prayers mean to our entire family. We are devastated, but knowing that so many people have us in their prayers is a great comfort. Steve was a great son. There's a hole in our heart that will last forever. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. A small note would probably be appropriate, but a member of our family, our Rotary family, is hurting, and we want to extend our love. At this point, we're going to turn the podium over to John Adams, and he's going to introduce today's interviewees. So John, unmute yourself and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn, very much. Good morning, Rotarians. It's nice to be with you again. I hope you're enjoying this month like I am, getting to know our fellow Rotarians better. And this morning we have three fantastic gentlemen that I'm going to ask these questions to and get to know better. You might notice that our format's going to shift a bit. It's going to be a little shorter than our usual 10-minute with each person because kind of want to spend some time wrapping things up after everyone's done. So with that, why don't we start with, I think probably maybe if not the newest, one of the newest members in our club. I know he transferred from another club, but Bill Libby. Bill, are you with us this morning? Bill, if you could unmute yourself, that would be great. Well, that pause seems really long. How about you? Bill, are you there?
Yes, he is. I think so.
I'll tell you what, let's give Bill a chance to unmute himself, and why don't we move over to Andy, and then when Bill gets it figured out, we'll come back. So Andy, can you hear me this morning?
I sure can. Good morning,
Great.
John.
Good morning, Andy. Thanks for joining us this morning. I appreciate your willingness to participate in this conversation that we're going to have together. You know, Andy, living in Hudson 20 some years and raising my boys and their involvement with Scouts, I don't think anybody can be involved with Scouts and not know the name Andy Morse. And so
I'm not sure that's good or bad, but okay.
I think that's good. I think that's good. You know, you've got Eagle Scouts in your family. I mean, you really are living the scouting life and ideals in many ways. And I'm excited about the opportunity to spend a few minutes and really get to know you better. I mean, because of Rotary, I know you now as the awning guy, in addition to the Scouts, but that's the extent of my knowledge. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your story and get to know it better. So why don't we start there? Why don't you give us a little bit about how long you've been in Hudson and your family. Give us a little bit about your background, and then we'll go on with the rest of the questions.
Okay. Obviously, yes, we've been in Hudson for a while. In fact, I first came to Hudson back in the very early 70s because my wife is a Hudsonite. She's actually a product of the Hudson High School here. So when I was at Case going to school, I actually would bicycle down here to come see her sometimes. But we got married in the Hudson Congregational Church quite a few years ago. So we've been coming to Hudson a long time, but we didn't move into Hudson until probably in the 80s. And that was basically from different job changes and that type of thing. I went to Case where I got my undergraduate degree in, I started out in mathematics, but actually ended up in German literature, where I got a BA and an MA. So just kind of a little switch there. And then I was planning on going forward into the Foreign Service. And so I thought, oh, a good combination would be do law and get a Master's of Science of the Foreign Service. Well, I never went to the Foreign Service part. I just did the law part, graduated, and said, all right, we got to make some money here. It's, enough of the schooling. And so in '78, I graduated from law school at Case and started practicing out in Elyria at with the Lorraine County Prosecutor's Office, as well as a private practice. But then we decided we wanted to move to Hudson. My wife's mother was still here, and so it was kind of a let's change course, and took over a practice of another attorney here, and back in I think it was '87 or so, and so that's really when we moved to Hudson, and so we've been here ever since. I've got three boys, as you said already, John. All three of them are Eagles. Of course, I'm an Eagle. My brother's an Eagle. So we were very much involved in Cub Scouts, in Boy Scouts, doing a lot of that type of thing. It's been a wonderful way to meet people here in the Hudson area. So I've enjoyed that a lot.
I didn't realize we shared the Elyria connection together. I grew up in Elyria and actually dated a judge's daughter through high school. So I imagine we probably know some of the same names.
Which judge?
Weber.
Oh, sure, Henry Weber, the
him and
family law judge. Yep.
Yep. So what brought you to Rotary? With that kind of a background and getting to Hudson, how did the dots connect for you to be involved with Rotary?
Good question. I got involved because my mother-in-law worked at the library with Tom Vince, so had known Tom for many years. He actually invited me, so he's the one to blame, for lack of a better term. I thought it was a great way to be involved in the business community. So he invited me over. Of course, obviously, at the time, I was thinking, gee, wouldn't it be nice to help my practice? That was short-lived from the standpoint of that's really not the real reason why any of us join Rotary from the financial gain standpoint. We join it because we want to give to the community. Our troop and our PAC are supported by Rotary Club, PAC 3321 and Troop 321. So it was natural for me to take over a lot of that aspect, and that's really what a lot of the part of Rotary's been is for me, being involved on that part. I love it, obviously, as we all know.
Yeah, for sure. You just in personal observation, I don't know that you know anything other than all in anything that you do. There's really no halfway point with you. If you're going to do it, you're all the way involved in it.
Yeah.
I've been asking the question about how maybe you've grown as a person. Like, how would you maybe say that you're different, even a better Andy Morris because of what we've all gone through with this pandemic?
And I've been thinking about that a lot since obviously we've been listening to these to this whole month. For me, COVID has really kind of had a different impact completely. And that is because we shut our business down when the governor told us to stay home on that Monday. We did send everybody home. Probably after 5 days, I got antsy. As most of you know, I can't sit still, a little ADD, whatever you want to call it. And so we started looking at how do we get things go back to start. The awning company, which I had purchased back in '95, we were considered to be an essential business because we were supporting the construction industry. So we actually brought in our management team and talked by Zoom and said, all right, should we start back up again? And so we actually did start back the next week as a necessary business. But the main thing that we had there was what is safety? Okay, how can we be protecting everybody? So we were doing commercial work first. Our building is 110,000 square feet, so we've got plenty of space to socially distance. That's not a problem. But part of what it does was, you had to change behavior because we also had to make sure that everybody would trust that you're being safe. You're being safe not just at work, but safe at home, safe on the weekend. That was a big cornerstone. The other thing that we worked with was, when you say how did you grow, we got the company together and we just said, all right, let's, I don't want to just survive. How do we thrive in this industry? How do we take the problems and turn them into some degree an opportunity, or at least how can we be better than we were before? And have worked on doing that. From a standpoint of a business model, we tried, we had challenges, least of which is just having people go out to install awnings. We made a change there that said, all right, everybody had to be in you couldn't drive in a truck together. So you split it up. And you just had to make whatever arrangements you possibly could. to keep that safety. And that was basically the biggest growth that I saw.
Wow.
We also tried to do something different. We had on Fridays we would do a group lunch.
If someone could mute, James, could you mute maybe?
I think it's Rich who's talking.
All right.
But we
Wow.
so we just tried to do different things to try to keep the culture going.
Got it. Oops. Okay. So this is my favorite question. All right. I really view you as a very intelligent person and high character guy.
That's because you don't know me well enough.
But they don't just hand out degrees at Case Western Reserve, let alone 2 of them. But what would you say maybe are some words of wisdom that if you were keeping a journal right now, that maybe your grandkids find your journal at some point, and you write down 2020 and the pandemic and the social unrest going on, what might be some thoughts that you'd write down in there that you'd hope they'd find and apply in their life?
I probably would write down that the 2020 has definitely been a year and a time of change. Okay, and obviously it's been different even from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. I would also say that this is going to be a defining moment of our country, just as there's been some other defining moments. My son, my youngest son, I've got 3 boys. He turned 16 on 9/11. Okay. Clearly another defining moment that we've had in our history. In this instance here, I would say that it's going to be one where the country will never be the same as it was before. There will be some change. We're kind of like in the first act of a 3-act play. We don't know how it's going to play out yet, but we know that there will be significant alteration of our country. And I think it was Nietzsche who says, from adversity, you start to, and the challenges, you will grow stronger. You will go, you'll grow better. And that's really where I believe our country is going to be.
Great. Well, Andy, I appreciate your willingness to spend some time with us this morning. It's nice getting to know you better. Like I said, I didn't know we had the Elyria connection together. But thanks for your time with us today.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, we're going to move along to Richard. I see Richard Nebiolo stand by there. If you could unmute yourself there, Richard. There you go. Richard, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, John. How are you doing?
We're good. So, Richard, you and I kind of became Rotarians around the same time. That's one thing I know about you. We've enjoyed some nice conversations since I've joined, but I'd still like to spend a few minutes getting to know you better. So why don't we just start off with, tell us a little bit about your story. Who are you, your background, how long you've been in Hudson, that kind of stuff.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to participate in this forum, John. My wife, Lynn, and I, we've been in Hudson for 34 years. It's our 4th home. We started out as a married couple in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and then moved to North Canton, Ohio with the Timken Company. And then we were in Owensboro, Kentucky for 4 years, and then came to Hudson in 1986. We have 2 adult daughters who graduated from Hudson High School. Our older daughter, Jennifer, graduated from Kent State University with honors, and she teaches children with autism at the Galvin Clinic in Warrensville Heights. She has 2 daughters, 22 and 19, and the 3 of the ladies live with us because of a divorce. That keeps my wife and I young, I think.
Yeah.
With our grandkids. I tell people that I have passed high school math and science 5 times now for myself and our daughters and granddaughters.
That's funny.
Our younger daughter, Heather, lives in suburban Cincinnati, and she has a boy, 13, and a girl, 11. She graduated from Xavier University with honors in Cincinnati. She worked for 5 years with learning disabled adults, and now she's on the Wyoming, Ohio school board. My wife Lynn went to Robert Morris in Pittsburgh, and she worked for 26 years at Allstate Insurance here in Hudson. She was an executive administrative assistant, and she worked in sales and IT. For myself, I received a BS in metallurgical engineering and materials science from Drexel University in Philadelphia. And I had got the same, in the same discipline, I got a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. I actually started my engineering career at General Electric Missile and Space Division in Philly, where I worked as a rocket engineer. GE at that time made re-entry vehicles for the spy satellites that orbited Russia during the Cold War and nose cones for the ICBM. The main part of my career has been in the steel industry. I spent 53 years in the steel industry at Latrobe Steel, Timken Steel, and Republic Steel in Canton, and I retired from Republic Steel. I then spent about 1 year as a consultant, and then I went back to work at Warren Steel in Warren, Ohio, which was a restart of the Copper World Steel Company. And I retired from there about 3 years ago as Director of Steel Technology. Generally in my career, I worked with the technology of steelmaking in the plants, and then I provided technical assistance to big customers such as GM, Ford, Chrysler, Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Caterpillar, and oil field equipment companies. I wrote many papers and gave presentations at national conferences. I was fortunate enough to have business trips throughout the United States and Canada, Mexico, Germany, Italy, Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. My hobbies are trail bike riding, kayaking, traveling, painting with watercolors, reading, and hiking.
Wow. That's pretty interesting background there. Very interesting to hear about your family and your work in the engineering area. So how did the dots connect for you to become a Rotarian?
Okay, that's a good one. After I retired in 2015, I really wanted to do some volunteer work in the community, but I wasn't sure which society to join other than work at St. Mary's Church. How it started is my granddaughter Mackenzie, she gave me the opportunity. She won a Rotary scholarship 3 years ago, and she's now a senior at Kent State University. You know, when they give out the awards, the families are invited to come to breakfast. And we actually sat at a table with Tom Tobin and Catherine Sines, and they encouraged me to join Rotary. I also had good friends as members, Doug McDowell, Ron Strobel, and Phil Tobin. And they've been some of my mentors in my 3 years. I really enjoy the fellowship and meeting new people, and particularly learning about our city and about our schools. We're privileged to learn a lot of inside information that you necessarily can't get from the Hudson Hub or other places. My favorite interest in Rotary are service learning presentations, school-related topics, and particularly the Foundation Grant Committee, of which I am the chairman. We can really help put our dollars to good use in the community. Also, Rich Warfield recruited me to be on the membership committee with him and Mike Swain. I do enjoy that work also. I'm also a representative of Rotary to the Hudson Food Bank, along with Ron Barnhouse. I did have fun on the Gala Committee for several years. And I also like to work with fellow Rotarians on projects like Santa on the Green, serving brats and hot dogs at the Art on the Green, and the Camp Manitowoc. And John, you and I have been on some of those things together.
Sure. So my next question is just to get an idea of, how would you say you're a better person, Richard, or a different person as a result of this pandemic?
I really think the most important thing is to be grounded and keep your head up amid the chaos of COVID-19, the restrictions, the illnesses, and the demonstrations in the cities. We shouldn't be tossed around like a canoe in a storm by the sensational news stories and the wild social media opinions. I really focus on faith and family to keep my sanity. Daily prayers and the live streaming of Mass from St. Mary's are my keys. And I also stay in touch with family and friends by Zoom and Skype. We certainly, like everyone else has said, we really miss the smiling faces, the hugs, and the handshakes.
Sure. I have observed how social you are, always an outgoing, smile, handout guy. You know, I've been asking the final question in the context of grandchildren finding a journal of yours someday down the road, and you maybe make a note in there about how words of wisdom, either because of the pandemic or the social unrest, what would be some of those notes that you would have written to them that you'd really want them to take as a result of what's going on right now?
Thanks. My daughter put up a sign in our front yard that says, "Hate does not live here." You've probably seen that sign a few places around town. I'm making a sign that says, "Love lives here. Love is the answer." And I really think that's more powerful than gravitational force in the universe. It's the most important power. We have to focus on listening and learning from each other and helping people. And that's certainly what we do on the Rotary projects. Don't worry, be happy. Appreciate what we have living in Hudson. Love your family, especially friends and neighbors. Jesus told us that everyone is our neighbor. And our motto is service before self, and I'm proud to be a Rotarian.
Boy, there's some great messages there, and let me stop that clock. You really put a lot of thought into those questions, and your sense of family, your professional education and background in engineering, but your strong faith and practice of that really stands out in our communication this morning. So thanks for the words with you this morning.
Thank you, John.
All right. So we have we're going to rotate over here to Mimi as our third candidate for our interview this morning. And so Mimi, are you with us? Can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, yeah.
There you are. All right.
A little time delay.
That's all right. How are you today, Mimi?
I'm fine.
Good, good. I'm looking forward to our time together here and getting to know you a little bit better.
The surprise package for the day.
Yeah. Thank you for your flexibility. So let's start with who you are, Mimi. I've always enjoyed your comments. They're always well thought out, but I don't really know you as a professional, what exactly you did. So why don't you start there? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, first of all, I'm a cheesehead, which means I was born and grew up in Wisconsin.
Yep.
And I grew up in a family business. By the way, one of the things that's affected me, my mother was trained as an opera singer. And I learned to pay attention to loud noises because she carried for 6 blocks. And when it was time to come home, she would beller and we would come.
Wow.
But anyway, I grew up in the family business and I was waiting on customers from the time I was 7 years old. My father was a photographer and I had a big camera shop, and he served many parts of the state. He did a lot of international exhibition work. And so I learned early on that there were good ways to work with people. And my mother used to say, with her teeth clenched, the customer is always right. So that was part of how I was trained. But I went to school in Minnesota, and Carleton College, and I majored in sociology and anthropology, but I also had a strong background in history and science. And when I graduated, I began work as a children's services caseworker. And I dealt with children who had been abused by their aunts, or their uncles, brothers, and fathers, many of whom were pregnant.
Oh.
So that was my introduction into the world at large. But then I got married, and my husband had been accepted at Yale Divinity School. And in those days, they expected a twofer. So we moved to New Haven, and we were there for 7 years. 3 of those years, I was teaching junior high school and attending classes at Yale Divinity School. And when he graduated, he had by then figured out that since it took him 7 days or 8 days to write a sermon, and he couldn't remember people's names, that maybe he should go back to physics. So he transferred into the physics graduate program, and he got his PhD in nuclear physics at Yale. When he finished that, by then we had 1 child and another on the way. And so we then moved to Hiram, where he became chairman of the physics department at Hiram. And I became a lowly faculty wife, which is how they thought they got a twofer there too for a long time. But in 1977, I was asked to start for Hiram College their first environmental studies program. By then, I had been working with a number of organizations and was for the International Joint Commission chair of their science advisory boards, one of their working committees. And so I did do what was asked, but the quid pro quo was that we could establish a regional center that would assist communities and businesses and people in solving environmental problems. And so I was there for 10 years. And then I had the opportunity, because of a fellowship that was offered, to go to Duke for my PhD. And I was a little nervous about living in the South, but we had spent quite a bit of time at Oak Ridge National Labs for Larry's research. So I said, okay. And I called Larry from the dean's office at Duke, where I had gone down to look at a program, and told him what they'd offered me. And he said, you'll never get another chance. I was 52. And so take it. Little did I know that was going to mean 6 years of work in North Carolina. But I really benefited from that. I helped establish a program because my focus was in solving international problems, transboundary environmental problems. And so when I was ready to leave, I had an opportunity to come back to Ohio or to go to Brown, but I chose to go to the University of New Hampshire because they had the ability to look at complex problems 3 ways. They were a land grant, space grant, and sea grant university. And what I had learned in my work, which focused on the Great Lakes, but I had learned that everything is connected and you have to be able to cross the street, basically. At Duke, I was their first non-traditional doctoral student, meaning I was old. And I was also the first doctoral student that they allowed to have expertise in 5 different disciplines.
Wow.
Normally, when you study for your doctorate, you do this, you become very narrow. And I was interested in ecosystem-based approaches with humans in them. And that means you have to be able to knit together diverse populations, diverse sets of causes to really understand what's going on. So I went to the University of New Hampshire, and I was there for 22 years. And what I benefited from there and also contributed was this approach to problem solving at the ecosystem level. Geographic boundaries are important, political boundaries are important, but if you want to get at the source and cause of problems that are affecting the environment, you have to be able to go beyond political boundaries. So in the work there, I did a lot of interdisciplinary collaborative work. One of the projects I worked on for about 10 years was one that was started by Al Gore. It's called GLOBE, and it's a scientist-student-teacher partnership in looking at local and global problems and monitoring Earth systems. It's in 140 countries, and I help to train investigators across the planet in that program and how to understand the importance of gathering data scientifically, reporting it in a way that countries couldn't control it. There's one server in Frankfurt, Germany, and one server in Boulder, Colorado. And once that stuff hits the servers, it becomes public property. So the governments can't manipulate it. That's part of a treaty with each of the participating countries. Anyway, that program, a program called EcoQuest, which I was a co-founder of in New Zealand, has enabled our students, for students from across the US, but through UNH, to learn how a country rehabilitates damaged systems so they can be productive, and to work together across all kinds of cultural lines.
Sure.
So I've had students working in Africa, and I've done a lot of work in Central America. I was a co-founder of Sustainable Harvest International, which helps to train cooperative extensionists in Central American countries so that they can work with local farmers and communities to restore their damaged productive systems and also learn how to market and do this organically.
Mimi, let me ask you this. Because in the interest of our time together today, that is fascinating, the multiple areas of your education. You are a very well-educated person. And it was really neat to hear in your early 50s how you seized that opportunity at Duke that turned into a 6-year program. Now, how did the dots connect for you to get into Rotary?
Well, when I came to Laurel Lake, when we retired, my husband knew that he had limited time left. And so we moved into Laurel Lake, and I knew about Hudson. I had friends in Hudson, but I didn't know the community. So there were two things I did. One was a former league friend of mine, Bev Dorson, found out I moved into town and I got scarfed up by the local league, but I wanted to learn more about Hudson itself and the people that made it tick. And Peter Goheen was at that time a member of Rotary, and so he invited me to come to Rotary.
Got it. So then, as we kind of wrap up a little bit, I'll certainly kind of combine these last two questions as far as maybe either how you grew as a person as a result of the pandemic, or if I go to my last question, maybe what words of wisdom that you might want to pass along as a result of this time that we're in, either the pandemic or the social unrest going on. What would be some of your pearls of wisdom there? Okay,
well, the pandemic occurred midway through my term as president of the Lower Lake Association. So I I was presented with a whole range of challenges when we realized that we were going to have to basically shut down, go into isolation. And in a community, this is actually living in community, as Jen and others can verify. And when the community, where we are all interacting, went to delivered dining, shut down the dining rooms, told people to stay in their apartments, or their villas, and all the activities shut down because we knew the population was really vulnerable.
Oh.
So we created a whole a set of new institutions, neighborhood watch. People got called every day if they wanted to be. We discovered we were going to have to, after Chris rescued us for a few weeks by delivering the mail when the post office wouldn't agree to have their postal workers masked and
That's nice of Chris to do.
questions. Yeah.
Really nice.
So yeah, so that's how my life was made different. So I'm still delivering the mail. Words of wisdom. We have to learn how to suck up a challenge and overcome it as a culture and still care about each other. I miss my family because they can't come. I fortunately can still go. But for me personally, I think the thing that has been most of most concern has been that if, and this is not intended to be a partisan statement, but if we do not take control of our system of governance so that we have responsible leadership into the future, our democracy is seriously threatened. And I've been a student of government for a long, long time. And I think the most serious challenge facing America today is to be aware that we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have to have responsible leadership that is willing to risk leading.
Wow. Amy, you really put a lot of thought into this, and I appreciate your flexibility of being able to fill in. I've always, again, respected you. I've known that you're certainly a person of strong convictions and great education, but not to the extent that you share with us this morning. So thank you very much. So with that, I'm gonna kind of move on to a wrap up of this. I hadn't intended to do this, had not, but I received several emails from various members suggesting that I do so. And so I made some notes and gonna take 5 minutes or so to kind of wrap up. But why don't we do words of wisdom wrap up? Allison Feaster, I just that message about finding the child within us and be happy, like her dad told her to take time to smell the roses. Tom Page, be positive, be appreciative of your friend's perspective, look forward and always keep smiling. Although with the mask on, I don't think people can tell if I'm smiling or not. Donna Kastner, be kind, be gracious, seek to understand before being understood. And her grandson, Leo, would want him to stay curious, stay connected, and absolutely help one another. Joe Boysel, I have a comment to pull back from the media, read nutritious things, find good stuff to fill our minds with, and how important relationships are. Treat people with kindness and dignity. What a great message in today's day. Mike Swain, don't take the hugs for granted. I really was poignant how hard it was not to be able to hug his kids and his grandkids when he got a chance to see him. So don't take those hugs for granted. Each one is special. Appreciate everyone. Don't take anyone for granted. And then those who, to Mimi, your comment, Nietzsche, Churchill, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. How about Liz? Whoops, let me stop that. How about Liz, when she said flexible people don't get bent out of shape, and how everything is about making choices. And I thought about the message to her kids as other kids were playing baseball or things like that. Keith, with the vocal cords and you were able to really hang in there for our conversation, and with your banking background and career and seeing the effect of what's going on in the economy on people and businesses, your message, don't take things for granted, and also to be prepared financially. Phil, take care of Mother Earth. It's all we have. And then the love of God has nothing to do with political position, Phil. Joe Zapatowski, really our first person that we interviewed, stay true to yourself and your beliefs. And then the birthday boy, Dan Williams, when we interviewed him on his birthday, how really life is precious. Life is not cheap. We should do everything we can to preserve it, and the importance of flexibility. So those were some wrap up of previous week's words of wisdom in addition to what you all heard today. But, so what are some things that are sticking with me from these interviews? And I made these notes, and this is with Mike Swain's help, with his suggestion, was really the resourcefulness and resiliency of Donna Kastner in reinventing her consulting practice after the negative impact of COVID-19. How about Tom Page and others who really, live the spirit and commitment of community involvement, just rolling their sleeves up and how can I help? That's just so admirable. Liz, juggling the career demands at home in a very responsible position, but also raising young children at home, and at the same time being married to a frontline healthcare worker. So, wow, that's going to stick with me anytime I see you, Liz, the balancing act that you're doing. Mike Swain, I've said hi to Mike, but didn't really know his story, but to learn about his international business experience, and the opportunity that he had to go back and teach it at his alma mater, Virginia Tech, is pretty impressive. I just didn't know that about him before these interviews. Joe Boycel and his comments about the social unrest and through his words, as I rewatched that, really, in a way, putting us in the shoes of the people expressing themselves right now by breaking a few plates. I certainly looked at the damage being done one way, but Joe really helped us put ourselves in their shoes, and maybe it's understandable that they might break a few plates in this time. How about Dan Williams, really, and how his career trajectory was absolutely impacted by a professor who took an interest in him and encouraged him to consider being an educator. So that's pretty neat, just how that whole trajectory changed because of that professor. Allison Feaster, my gosh, 14 grandkids. And as she was going on listing, talking about all of her children, how amazing accomplished they all are, each and by their own good standards. So Allison, that was really impressive. But also, all the kids and grandkids, how you seem to keep reinventing yourself to serve the community and I'll just say to serve the community. So that was really impressive to me, the law degree and getting that stuff. Joe Zapatowski, gosh, your 69-year marriage to Jean is really a testament and a lesson to all of us, as well as your service to our country that really I hadn't known about if we didn't have that interview. And I never would have learned that you lived on a boat with Jean for 5 years, okay? I mean, I have trouble being in a car with my wife sometimes for 5 minutes, but wow, 5 years on a boat, pretty impressive. And 69 years of marriage, wow. So Phil Budo, your dedication to your work as the CFO for our school system and how financially healthy they are in these trying times. But what stood out to me really was how you're such a family man. And it was really a standout to me. You've got kids in the school system that you're financially shepherding, as well as being a teacher at home to those kids. But then also how this pandemic has made it difficult for you not to be able to have those family moments with your family back in Youngstown. That stood out to me. And I'll just wrap up with this as it's 8:26. The thing that makes this city, a company or an organization great really comes down to the people that live there or work there or participate in it. We always hear what a great town Hudson is, and we all know it's a great town because of the people that call Hudson home. Well, I will say this Rotary chapter of Hudson is a great chapter because of the people that call it their chapter. The words that I heard in these interviews, we are brothers and sisters because of the values that we share. It has been my pleasure, and I mean that sincerely, fostering this intimacy that I just don't know would have been possible, or at least the same, if we were still meeting over at Laurel Lake. I would like to think we're a better chapter than we were before. I want to thank you, all of those this morning and previous weeks who shared of themselves and allowed me to interview them. I'm disappointed I didn't get to interview everyone. I may tap on you in future meetings to just to have an interview with you. And I certainly enjoyed getting to know all of you better and look forward to getting to know other members better. So thank you very much. That's my wrap up.
And thank you, John. You know that this is his first month of being the chair of our speakers committee. He has certainly set the bar high. We have great expectations for what is to follow. Next month, we'll be focusing on topics of education, and starting us off will be Suzanne Buck, the head leader of the Western Reserve Academy. This is the first time that she will be addressing our group since she assumed the leadership of WRA. So it will be very interesting to hear of her experience, her past, and what she's bringing to this institution, and how they plan to change or address classes with a very diverse background of students. Traditionally, there's a large component of that student body that lives in dormitories on the campus, and I'm certain some things are going to change along that line. Also, I want to report, I'm very pleased to report that we have sold all of the Hudson wrapping paper, and thanks to the generosity of Donna Kastner, $672 has been collected to benefit the Hudson Outreach EMS project. And I believe that gets us very, very close to having a total donation from our club of $8,000. We are to be congratulated on that. We're helping this group move forward, and I'm very, very proud to be part of this. So I'm going to close very briefly with this day in history. In 1914, the first continental telephone service in the United States became operational with a test conversation between New York and San Francisco. And look at where we are now with telecommunications. In 1921, Adolf Hitler became the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, and we all know how that turned out. And for Richard Nebiolo, this one's for you. In 1958, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act, creating NASA. And lastly, in 1981, a worldwide TV audience of over 700 million people watched the wedding of Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, and Lady Diana Spencer at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. So have a great day. We will see you next week. And thank you again, John Adams, for a wonderful month. We all had questions when we started our Zoom encounters, what this would really become. It's become an opportunity. So thank you, John, and adios. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.